Alright, what is up guys, Aurora here, and today we are here to take a look at the new deck that everyone's been talking about, the new Boogeyman, the deck that everyone is raving about. We're talking about fish, more specifically Coral. So Coral is the new kid on the block that was one of the best decks in the game right now. And in my opinion, I think the deck is fine. I think the deck is pretty good. But I do think the deck has its fair share of issues, but we'll go over that later. But for here, we're just here to go over the deck. So we'll go from top to bottom as per usual, so let's get started. So first off, the starter is the Coral starter, because this deck is playing the Coral Ride Chain. Obviously, because you're playing a Ride Chain, you need the 0, you need the 1, and you need the 2, and the 3, obviously. So what the 0 actually does is, when you ride the grade 1 on top of it, you check top 7 cards of your deck, and you add either the grade 2 or the grade 3 to your hand. This grade 3 specifically shares the same name as the old double Coral, so you can add this one to your hand. So really good there. Lets you search for a ride for either 2 or 3, and then if you whiff the search, you get to call her out of soul, and if you write anything else that is not the grade 1 Coral, she also comes out of soul. So you get a booster basically if you whiff one way or another. So pretty cool there. But you really do want to ride the 1, and you really do want to find something off the top. So take that as you will. So that's it for that. You literally cannot play another starter in this deck. You have to play the grade 0 because you need it for the Ride Chain. So grade 1s. We are playing 4 of the grade 1s. So what this card actually does is if you have the 0 and soul plus 1k, and then when anything other than the grade 2 Coral rides on top of her, you check top 7 and you look for a grade 2 Coral from among them and ride it. If you don't find anything, you just whiff and just continue on with your turn. So pretty cool that she gets to try to fix your ride if you find her but don't find the grade 2. So it's pretty cool there. But my least favorite thing about this deck is the fact that these Corals are both the 1 and the 2 are both just flat out vanillas with only van effects. So kind of sucks that this thing's literally a vanilla brick on river. You kind of are forced to play because of Coral name and the fact that you need it for the ride chain. So it kind of sucks there, but what can you do? Next, we're playing 3 of her on play. Check top 5. You can add a Coral from among them to your hand, and then choose one card from hand and put it into soul. So if you don't know Coral, you want a bunch of Corals in soul, so this can dig for them and put them into soul, or you can dig for stuff and put other stuff into soul if you want. Which there is one non-Coral that you do actually want to do that with, but we'll go over that when we actually get to it. So that's our first skill. Our second skill is a soul. If your Vanguard is a grade 3 or higher Coral, you can put a grade 2 or higher card from your hand into your soul to add her to hand, and then call her to rear and give one of your units plus 2k. I think it'd be I don't remember if it was give a coin or give anything 2k, but she basically calls herself from soul and gives something 2k, and then her skill will activate, letting you check top 5 for a Coral. So pretty good. This card helps you dig for stuff to put into soul, but more specifically, she digs for Corals to actually add to your hand. She can help you dig for your grade 3 ride if you need to. So pretty good there. That's why you play her. And then lastly, the last non-PG grade 1 is the her. I have no idea what her name is, as with the other one, but her skill is when she's placed from when she's bounced from board to hand, you can choose a card that is not a copy of her and put it into your soul. Then if the card you put was a Coral, you give something plus 3k, and then if you gave something plus 3k, counter charge 1, draw 1, put a card from your hand into your soul, and then your soul has 4 more Corals, draw an additional 1. So to shorten this paragraph, basically, if you put a card when she's bounced in hand, put a card from hand into soul, draw 1. If you have 4 more Corals, draw another 1. And if the card you drew is a Coral, you put the first effect is a Coral plus 3k, counter charge 1 as well. So basically, she can help you filter, which is pretty nice. But the main reason we are playing her is because for her second effect. This first effect does come out sometimes, but the main reason we're playing for the second effect, hand. If you're paying the cost for stride, and I think I don't remember if you need to stride into a Coral or if you need a Coral Vanguard, one or the other. I don't remember which one it was. She has plus 2 grades, so she's stride fodder. So stride fodder with a upside, so pretty nice there. And then the PGs we were playing is the Harmony. Yes, Harmony. The Harmony is PG. So the skill is at the end of your turn, this unit is in the Harmony state. You can discard a card and add her back to her hand, and she herself has Harmony. So the reason why Harmony is needed is because there's a few cards in the deck that actually require you to be in the Harmony state. for you to do some effects. The main one is the Alk GR, which actually can come up. So yeah, all your PGs in BT are either super xenophobic or it is the CCPG, which is pretty useless because this deck doesn't burn through CB at all, basically. So you play this because this has niche uses, and it's because this card can bounce back to hand. You can slam it as a booster and bounce back to hand at the end of the turn, so that's pretty cool. But if you don't want to play this for whatever reason, I think the next best one is actually the original PG, the PG that actually holds you at 3. Unironically, because that PG in the mirror, if they can't extend properly on the rears, being crit checked at 3 and staying at 3 is actually better than going to 5. So if for whatever reason you don't want to play the Harmony PGs, the OG PGs are actually the next best choice in my opinion, at the very least. So take that as you will, but I think the Harmony PGs are the optimal ones. So that's a grade 1. Grade 2, so you're playing 4 of the grade 2 corals. The biggest brick, one of the biggest bricks in the deck, like the grade 1. If you had the grade 1 in soul, plus 1k, and then on hit to van, while she is on van circles, on hit to van, you can bounce a card in your front into your hand. Then if you have the grade 1 coral in your soul, you can add her a card from the back row as well. So on hit, you can bounce 2. So basically, if you can go like rear and then a whole column and then bounce both back to hands to actually add keep the cards in your hand so you don't lose advantage while pushing for damage. So pretty good there. But again, just the vanilla 9 can't rear really sucks, but she goes to soul, so I guess it's fine that she's a brick on mirror, but at the end of the day she still intercepts, so it's fine, I guess. And then finally, the other 3 grade 3s, 3-3-3. So we're playing 3 Charlotte. So her skills on hit the van, CB1, bounce her back to her hand. Then you can choose one card other than herself and call her to rear. So she's an on hit extender, but this way has ways to get over intercept. So pretty good. So this skill actually does come up. So the reason we play her is because this deck makes giant numbers and she's just another extender. So pretty good there. We're playing 3 Speakers as well. When she attacks the Vanguard, if she's boosted, you can CB1, bounce a unit that is not a copy of this Speaker specifically back to your hand, and then call a card and give a plus 3k. So another extender, and then her, I do not know her name, but her skill is on place, van rear. Choose a coral from your hand or your board and put into your soul to draw 1. And then soul, if you have 4 or more soul, including her, you can put her from soul to draw 1. So this is the other card you want to be putting into your soul, because you put her in for your effects and just to draw soul blast for pseudo soul blaster out, because technically it's not actually a soul blast, but she soul blasts herself out to draw a card, so pretty good there. And that's some grade 2s. As for ratios, I think you can probably cut a Charlotte down for a Speaker if you want, but I personally prefer 3 Charlotte, 3 Speakers, because Charlotte, although she can't actually extend once at 5, she lets you extend when you go first, and I think that's actually pretty important, so that's why I'm playing 3 of both. And that's it for the grade 2s. And finally for the triggers, so this is probably the most whack thing in this deck, so we are not actually going with the usual 4 heal guards. We are going with 2 heal guards and 2 grade 3 Speakers on heal. So I will not go over this card because I still to an extent do not know how this card works, but she is basically another extender, which is really nice because you do want more extenders in this deck. But more importantly, she is a grade 3. And why is that important? As you can see here, we are playing 4 grade 0 stands and not a full set of stride fodders, meaning striding in this deck can actually be an issue sometimes. So more grade 3s for stride fodders is actually pretty important in my opinion, so that's why we're playing 2 of each. The reason we're not playing this coral on heal is because this grade 1 can add corals to hand, and if she's the only thing you find, you're forced to add it. You don't want to take heals out of your deck. That being said, you are usually out of heal range a lot of times because you're pushing so hard. But still, sometimes you don't want to be forced to add a heal to your hand. So that's why we're playing 2-2. Speaker is a nice extender, but mainly because it is more stride fodder in the deck. So that's why we're playing 2-2 of each of the heals. Next up, we're playing. I'll go over this card first. This coral. She's basically just a grade 3 coral with a name. You never want to use her because you never want to ride her because her skill is much worse than the stride bonus coral. So just for name. And finally, the card, in my opinion, that makes the deck playable is the Crook. How do you want to say her name? This card is the sole reason, in my opinion, why this deck is playable at all. So her skill is, she has Harmony, and then GB1. At the end of this battle's boost, if she was in the Harmony state, return her back to the deck. Choose a card on your board and bounce back to your hand and call a card. And then choose a card from your hand and call it. So this card lets you extend. She's a stand that goes back to the deck. She just does a little bit of everything for the deck. So yeah, this card is insane. Without this card, I don't think Coral can win at all whatsoever. A lot of your games does come down to just how many crooks you draw. And then, you know, since they go back and you thin your deck out so much, you draw a bunch, they go back and then you flip them because your deck is really thin and there's a bunch of triggers that are going back to your deck. So, yeah, this card is really, really good. This card is limited to 1 in TCG for a reason. And, yeah, they decided to put in 0, completely unchanged, and it's at 4. So, and this just happens to be the deck that's best at abusing it. So, because the win con, basically the win con deck we're playing for a bit. And finally, the actual ride of the deck is the Stride bonus Coral. So her skill is during either player's turn, Van and Rear. If you have 4 or more Corals in Soul, plus 2k. So 13k Rear, 13k Van. 13k Van is obviously much more relevant because it means you're sitting on a cross-ride base. So very good there. And then once returned on place or when a Coral G unit strides, you can choose 1 card from your hand and put into your soul to draw 2. Then you give your Vanguard the ability at the start of the main phase. I think it's during the main phase. For every 2 Corals in your soul, your front row gets plus 5k. So the more Corals in your soul, the bigger it gets, and getting Corals soul is not hard at all whatsoever. So the only real downside here is that you need specifically stride into a Coral Vanguard, but you can get around this by rewriting. Because if you rewrite and then pay this cost immediately, and then stride, whatever you stride into will have the power. So that's one way you can get big power when you go into non-Coral strides. But yeah, she's your main ride. Obviously, we're going to play 4 of it. Happens to be pretty big on Rear too. And yeah, just a good card overall. And as you can see here, for my trigger ratios, I'm playing a full set of stands. I think it's fine to play the Grade 3s on draw as well. But I personally speaking, I ran into 1, deck out issues, and 2, flipping a draw and wishing it was a stand. In most matchups, you usually draw enough hand to not need the draws, at least from my personal experience. So I think just having more stands to flip to push for more damage is just better, because I think this is just a full-on Unga Bunga aggro deck. So yeah, as long as you're drawing enough cards to stabilize throughout the entire game, I think it's fine. And I personally do think this deck draws enough cards to stabilize. So that's why I'm playing on a stand. But like I said, you can play draws on the Grade 3s if you want. That's completely up to you. I think it's completely up to preference. And finally, the G-Zone. So I'm playing the Megiddo. I've never gone into it. I never wanted to go into it. The most useful thing I've ever used this for was Flip Fodder for Anj. So completely replaceable. You do not actually need this. This is just here because it looks pretty. Harmonics we do need. I will not go over it. I will not go over Harmonics because, you know, Harmonics is a good card. Next we're playing 4 of the Coral GR. I think 3 is more than enough. I don't think I've ever had a situation where I actually wanted 4. I'm just playing 4 as I have it. But her skill is on attack CB1, flip anything your G's in the face up. Spoilers, you will want to flip another copy of her. To soul charge 1, and then bounce a card on board for every Coral in your soul. And then I think she gets plus 5k per card you bounce, I think. And then if you have 2 or more of this specific Coral GR face up in your G zone, choose draw a card, choose 2 cards from your hand and call them, and at the end of your turn, choose 2 up to 2 grade 2 or lower Coral units from dropping them back into your deck. So basically this card reads second stride onwards, it's a multi-attacker that has Coral name. So yeah, this card is basically never your first try. The only time you'll ever first try this Coral is if you are playing as Link Joker and you want to bounce your board back. Other than that, this card is never first try because you never get the actual effect you want off of the first try. So the actual first try for the deck is the triple rare Coral, and what you flip with the triple rare Coral is the GR Coral. So yeah, the triple rare Coral skill is once returned, if you have a Coral Heart, flip a Coral from your G zone face up. So like I said, you'll always flip the GR Coral because you want to flip this and then stride into this the next turn and flip another copy up, so you have 2 face up. So yes, basically this card reads flip the GR Coral face up. Choose 1 card from. You can choose up to 1 card from your board and bounce back to your hand. That's skill not tied to anything. You can just bounce up to you if you want to. Then choose choose any 1 card from your deck and put it into your soul. Then, if the number of Corals in your soul is 4 more, she gets a crit and she gets more power as well. The power is cool and all, but your stride bonus will make your stuff really big anyways. But she gets really, really big. She gets a crit and she can tutor anything from soul to deck. Most common targets are obviously the Corals if you need more for name, because you do need 4 for the crit. But assuming you have the 4, you will almost always jam her in because you put her in, it turns into a draw. So really, really good there. Really good for setting up because you know the crit can just push really, really fast. Giant number as well, and then being able to draw one off this was pretty nice. So this will basically almost always be your first stride. The only situation where this will not be your first stride is if you know you don't have a next turn on your first try, or if you think you can kill them on first try with something else instead, like the Alk, for example, which we'll go over right after this. But other than that, this Coral will almost always be your first try. And the Alk skill is Harmony, and then once per turn, CB1 cheap Persona flip. So you do need at least 2 of this card for it to work. Choose 2 units with the Harmony that you choose to possess the Harmony ability and bounce them to your hand. So in this deck, the only cards that actually have Harmony are the Crook, the Grade 3 Spica, I think. Yeah, Grade 3 Spica, and the your PG. So you need to bounce one of those cards, 2 of those cards back to your hand. Any 2 of those cards back to your hand. And then she gets the following ability. When this unit attacks, you can bounce any number. You can bounce units on your board up to the number of face-up cards in your G zone +1. So first try, you bounce 2, yada 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 yada, and then you can call up to 2 cards from your hand. And then GB3, which GB3 more power. Power does not matter in this deck because lol Coral. But yeah, she's basically an extender on first try that can extend and kill because this Coral doesn't actually extend to kill your opponents at 5, which pushing to 5 with this deck is not hard at all before first try. So having the Alk as an option to just kill is really nice. And yeah, just an overall solid card. And finally, we're playing 2 Anj. I think 1 is probably fine, but I have them, so I'll play them. But CB2, choose any current G zone in your G zone and flip it face up. And then choose any unit that is not on a Vanguard circle. So I've learned this card does not actually get over as this, which is kind of whack. But basically, this because it chooses 2 cards on circle, 2 units circle, however they worded this. Basically, you can't bounce resist units, but you can bounce locked cards. So yeah, her main use is bouncing locked cards, basically. So for this deck at the very least, so you bounce stuff, and then if you bounce, she gets 5k per card you bounced on either side of the field. So you can bounce your opponent's intercepts. If you bounce 5 or more total, draw 1. If you bounce 7, she gets the ability draw 1, drive +1. So when she attacks, draw 1 and drive +1. So this card is mainly here just to deal with lock and stuff. So yeah, that's what she's there for. And that's it for the G zone. So I actually want to give some concluding thoughts for this deck right now because this deck is rated quite highly by the community and definitely has results, but I personally think this deck has its fair share of issues. I think the first major issue with this deck is that it is playing in a ride chain, and whiffing feels super bad with this deck. So that's the first one. Being grade stuck is not very uncommon either. I think if you just look at the last CSM, like 3 Coral players on stream were grade stuck to this deck. And yeah, so deck is kind of inconsistent, a little too inconsistent for my liking. I still acknowledge it as a really good deck. I brought it for a reason myself for the first day of CS. But yeah, I think this deck does have fair share fair share of issues. And I think the second issue with this deck is this deck basically lives and dies by the Crux. If you like drive check all of these or damage check all of these, you just don't have to play with this deck anymore. So yeah, my personal bias to this deck. I don't like this deck very much. I don't like playing this deck. I don't like playing against this deck. It just rubs me the wrong way in 10 different ways. So yeah, but yeah, that's it for the deck profile part of this video. And I'll have some games for you guys as per usual. And so I guess I'll see you guys there. So for our first game, we are playing against DI. Realistically, this deck's game plan does not really change depending on what deck you're playing against. Your game plan is always just hit face as fast as possible. But yeah, obviously your mulligan priority in this deck is the ride line for very obvious reasons. But you also don't want to be grade stuck. So unless your hand is atrociously bad and you just have nothing in the ride line, you will probably at least hold like a 1 and a 2. Especially if the 1 is the grade 1 that can actually help you search your your corals. I think that grade 1 is the next best thing to ride if you can't find the grade 1. And here we got pretty lucky. We actually mulligan basically a perfect hand. We found grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3. And here we find extra stuff too. One thing to note is that if you're going first specifically, if you whiff the search and the starter is forced to come out, and you have the 1, you rolled the 2, and you have the 1 and you have the 2 in hand, your starter should always be off to the rear because one of the best things with this deck going first is that because you are a 10k base, your van at the very least is 10k base, you can scale against other 7k, so basically anything that isn't Coral. So because of that, you want your starter off to the side so that on your turn 2, you can actually push for damage while scaling, guaranteeing the man hit, because any 7k booster with your 10k van will make 17, meaning that column is guaranteed to hit even past the defensive. So I think in the next game, I don't remember if that happens, but in the next game I definitely wanted to at least show off one game where I went first, because I think this deck actually does excel at going first, surprisingly. This is a deck that actually probably does prefer to go first if going second in this game wasn't stupid as hell. So it's kind of like you want to go first, but you don't want your opponent to go second. So at the end of the day, going first is still worse just because your opponent gets to go second. But this is definitely this deck being able to go first comfortably is definitely one of the reasons why this deck is so good. Because this deck is very, very good at going first. The only other deck, the only matchup where you can't do that is the mirror, obviously, because they'll be on an 8 and then a 10, so you don't scale properly. But yeah, this is not a mirror, so here you'll probably see me aggro a bit at the very least. So use her, just jam the extra core that you don't need into the soul to get a draw, so hopefully you have something better. And we do find extra intercept. And as you see here, going second, you don't actually scale properly, which is like the quote-unquote bad thing about going second with this deck. But you know, this deck still needs to push damage, so you still need to risk it sometimes just to try to push for extra damage. And opponent hits the defensive. I don't remember if it hit a trigger here or not. But yeah, as you can see here, if you don't hit the trigger, if you like get punished here on this turn 2, you might end up like running slightly low on cards just because you don't get to bounce 2 cards back. But if you hit the trigger, really sucks that it's the Kruk though, because there is a card that we actually want to be drawing into, not triggering, as we're not going to do anything. But he got the power of this, so I guess it was fine. I'll just quickly skip powers. Point that he does a turn, very nice, very nice. And here, yeah, you see me right, on this first coral turn, it doesn't actually matter if you use this the on-play skill first, or if you choose to stride first. You'll get a prompt regardless of when you do it. Here we toss the grade 1 to stride because we already have 2 boosters, so we'll hold the grade 3. Could be an attacker or more stride fire for the next turn. Whatever works. And then now first stride, like I said in the deck roll part video, is almost always this coral. And here, well, we look for corals and you put stuff in. Another important thing is that you want to be on 4 corals in soul before you use the grade 4 coral skill to put something in the soul, because most of the time you want to be putting in the grade 2 that I just soul blast out for a draw. You want to be putting her in, but if you don't have 4 corals in soul, you have to put the 4th one in. Like if, for example, you have 3 and you need 1 more, you have to put it in immediately there because you want the crit on this thing. And here we bounce that back so we can reuse the skill, try to dig for more cards, thin the deck out. This is another thing that's really good. This deck's really good at thinning cards out of the deck. This grade 1 thins out a lot of corals. The stride thins out 1 card, which then lets you draw a card as well. And here, another very important thing to note is that Kruk does need to be in harmony, and usually the column of this card, the card in front of it does not have harmony, so the order you place the cards actually matters. So you always want to place on the Kruk first, so you should actually be in the harmony state. You can see that's what I did there. Kruk went down first. And play this down. It's not an intercept, but we would just bounce back anyway, so it will be an intercept eventually. And here's, I'm just thinking what I want to keep, what I want to put in. I don't know. I'm thinking so long, but I guess realistically, there didn't matter. We weren't hitting another threshold for the extra power in the core, regardless. So what I put in there realistically did not matter. So we bounce that back. Put that stand back into the deck, call down whatever. I actually don't know why I put the Charlotte in. I realistically probably should have put in the grade 3 coral so I can have extra intercept to call, but that's fine. Here we push, hits the defensive, and as you can see here, the numbers in this deck are absolutely insane, so it literally does not matter the hit defensive here. We're still hitting over it very comfortably. He hits another defensive, and we are actually still hitting over this number very comfortably, so yeah, this deck's numbers are absolutely insane. Yeah, as you see here, if I put the grade 3 coral in and have the grade 2, could have had an extra intercept here. But here, you'll see super crazy numbers. And we go for Van. Van is still asking for a PG. And remember correctly, although I didn't hit any triggers here, my opponent actually just dies. So yeah, quite the fast game. He just died on first try. He basically didn't get to play the game at all. But that's just what this deck does. It will just kill you on first stride. Sometimes you start the game off at 5 before you even stride. If Coral gets to go first, so this is what this deck does. Big crazy numbers. You have rears that extend, especially to Charlotte because she doesn't need GB to extend. So yeah, very nice there. And yeah, this is the next game. Next game we play against Regalia. And so here, I did say in this game we were going first, so yeah, I do want to show that off. So here we would just put that back, and we actually were pretty lucky and found the grade 1 in the mulligan. So we basically have 2 chances to fix our quote unquote fix our rides. Basically find the 2, find the 3. So there's the 2, and now our main target here is to secure the 3. And if you notice here, I actually I would not have had stride fodder if it wasn't for the grade 3 Spica. So grade 3 heals actually do come in clutch a lot for this deck, in my opinion, at the very least. And we also did find the grade 3 coral that, so we have secured our full ride chain. And another thing is that going first, because you're on 8 and 10, you are very hard to aggro, especially on the grade 1 turn. I don't know why my opponent slammed this down. He most definitely did not put down another grade 1. This is one of the main things about this deck that's really good, is that going first, your opponent basically cannot aggro you because you're on an 8k base. They'll need to commit like a full grade 1 column, and that's not usually the thing you want to be doing. So not being able to get aggroed in this deck is actually is one of the best things of this deck too, going first. So quickly skip past, and we draw a crook really nice, and we just quickly show off the grade 2 turn. So this is a very stock standard grade 2 turn. Whatever 7k grade 1 behind the van. And in this case, it's this one, so we just we probably just put in whatever we put it. Oh, I put that in. Oh yeah, because I wanted to kill the thing off, right? I wanted to kill off his grade 1. So here, yeah. As you see here, the deck also just puts in heals into soul a lot of times. You want to keep pieces and stuff. So sometimes putting in heal guard, you just throw in heal guards anyway, so it just ends up being fodder anyway. So it doesn't actually matter if they're 3s or 0s. So yeah, I definitely do think that playing some amount of grade 3 heals in the deck is unironically correct. So yeah. And here, we bounce those 2 back, and then if my opponent does not kill off the grade 1 coral, I get to put it into soul with the grade 2 that I bounce back to my hand. Otherwise, I just put the grade 2 back in to just draw a card. So, very, very good there. And because it's because of turn 2s like this that make this deck like really good at going first, because you get to push for damage while not losing card advantage, while also scaling. So that's definitely one of the best things about it. My opponent just goes van, goes on a 1 pass, doesn't find it, so he leaves on a grade 1 alive and I actually take no damage here. And as you can see here, Harmonics is optional. Obviously, I'm not going to pay myself for no reason. I don't need to. And we drew another copy of that grade 2, so we get to put 1 in and get to use 1, so it's very, very nice. And the Harmonics is this thing. Coral making numbers big, and we can put the other coral into soul as well. Cycle, draw a card, and we hit the next power threshold, so we are scaling for an extra 10k on everything now. And we can use this to draw. This is also not locked behind GB, so it's very, very good. If we choose to actually, if you want to use it, sometimes you already have a hand, you just want to save it for later. But realistically speaking, there's really no reason not just to shotgun the 0 if you just want to. Here we find the grade 2, so this finds as an intercept. And here we're probably gonna slam a heal garden because you know, against Regalia isn't exactly a very scary deck. So their first ride, you really just need like 1 PG to not die, realistically speaking. And here, I think I decided to be super greedy here. I basically just played for like a 1 pass because he hit a defensive. So my Van column specifically is kind of not scaling because Van is only 23, 1k short off scaling properly. And here I'm probably just letting when I want to slam down, just let down extra intercept. Yeah, so we go rear again, and just go Van, hope we see some triggers. But yeah, I don't think I saw any, so realistically speaking, I basically wasted a CB for no reason, but it's fine. We got keep the Charlotte in the hand. And if my opponent did not hit defensive there, this would have been a lot of this. He would have gone guard checked here. So yeah, here I think you basically just saw how good a bunch of power is on going first, because here my opponent basically just ate 3 damage guaranteed there, even unless they hit double defensive. If they didn't hit the defensive, then they would have gotten guard checked. They would have gotten guard checked before they even rode up to 3. So this definitely the deck's strongest thing about it is it's a very, very strong early game. My opponent does Regalia things. He like makes big crit ban, goes face, cool, like whatever. He's giving me CB to extend it with. He even healed down too, but you can see here no double intercept, so it actually doesn't matter. He's probably just dead here. He does his thing. We stride in this coral again, and yeah, we just do coral things. Put a heal in. Realistically, I don't think it will matter what I put in there. We drew a bunch of Spikas and a bunch of Charlottes, and here we just see what we see when draw into another Crux. See if we can draw into anything else to help us kill him even harder. Yeah, we use this. We jam whatever in here. Flip the See here we basically almost always flip the grade for the GR coral here. We need to actually because If you want to use it on second stride, we need to flip it face up. We put in the draw instead. We draw an extra card. And we find another booster too, and this one can also give us more corals in soul if we needed them. So find that, probably just throw that into my soul. Didn't actually matter. We actually have not hit the next threshold because I think we would need one more for the next threshold. And here, as you can see, I slammed the Grade 3 speaker behind Van. We're probably not going to actually use it to extend. I actually don't remember if I actually used it to extend or not. Grade 3 speaker behind Van does actually let you whatchamacallit. It actually does let you scale for bigger columns. That's pretty nice there. Here we use the Charlotte. Bounce her back, and we call down the Grade 2 speaker. So you can see that she can scale your columns. The extra power here realistically didn't actually matter, but you know, it's nice. And here actually thing actually didn't matter. We bounce her back so we can call down the other Grade 2 speaker in our hand. Over the ones already attacked. So I actually did matter, but realistically it didn't really matter what it was that was there. It just gave a little extra power, so it's pretty cool there. So we use that, we bounce that, and then we call out the Grade 3 speaker because we cannot use the and we can't bounce Grade 2 speaker with Grade 2 speaker. So we call that just bounce back to hand after anyway. So here we use this. We bounce that, and we get to reset another attack, and then basically we swing with this last rear, and then we just see we flip a stand around for lethal. So here we hit him again, and I think that was quite a bit of checks. We flipped the stand too, so my opponent's basically extra dead here. Because I remember correctly, I think he actually had the PG for the Vamp. He did not have the PG for this last swing, so he died here. Sucks to be him. This deck is playing 9 stands, so. I wouldn't exactly call it like sack or anything, especially since there are stands that go back into the deck after they get used. So yeah, and this is kind of how this deck plays. The deck plays a bunch of stands and hope they flips them. Giant numbers makes it work. So yeah. And here just a little note point is that, oh yeah, if you didn't flip the stand, you would have died. Realistically speaking, I would have been fine if I just didn't like shove like every heal guard in my hand into my soul. I was just like, yeah, it's fine. I'm probably not. This game's probably over this turn, so. If you want to play a little safer, you definitely could have thrown in some other things into the soul instead, like the Grade 3 coral, for example. Here, because at one point I did check my soul, and there was like 3 heal guards in there. So if you held even like one more heal guard in there, you would have been fine. Because against this deck, you would have reset the board, so it would push the 5 and then checked 3 times. So yeah, would have been fine if I just held heal guards in hand, but I went for game instead. So it didn't matter that much heal guards into my soul. So yeah, so that's it for this deck profile. Tell me guys what you think about this deck down below in the comments. If you're excited for it, all that. Like and subscribe, all the good stuff, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.